the darkness of space around Earth suddenly blazed with light as thousands of alien ships appeared from nowhere. They came out of hyperspace like ghosts becoming real, their metal hulls shining like sharp knives against the black sky filled with stars. The ships were huge, each one bigger than a city, and there were so many of them that they blocked out parts of the starfield behind them. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the largest ship in the fleet. He was not human. His body was covered in hard, dark shell-like skin, and he had 4 arms instead of 2. His eyes were black and cold as he looked down at the blue and green planet spinning slowly below him. Earth looked small and helpless from where he stood. "Look at this pathetic world," Vextar said to his second-in-command, his voice making clicking sounds that his translator turned into words. "These humans are so primitive. I can barely see any ships or stations around their planet. Just a few old pieces of junk floating in space." His second-in-command, a creature with 6 legs and purple skin, nodded in agreement. "The scan shows they have no real weapons, Admiral. Their technology is hundreds of years behind ours. This will be the easiest conquest we have ever made." Vextar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Good. Send the surrender message. Tell them they have 1 day to give up, or we will destroy every city on their planet. After we take this world, we will have conquered 50 planets for the hegemony. The Emperor will be pleased." The alien fleet spread out around Earth like a net, blocking every escape route. There were warships as far as the eye could see, their weapons pointed down at the helpless planet. Any human ship that tried to leave would be destroyed instantly. Deep underground beneath the city of Seoul, Commander Park Ji-ho sat in a secret command center that the aliens could not see. The room was filled with screens and computers, all of them showing the alien fleet above. Ji-ho was 50 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen many battles. But today those eyes were calm and steady. "Sir, the aliens are sending us a message," said Captain Kim Do-eun, a young woman sitting at a computer nearby. Her fingers moved quickly across a keyboard made of light. "They want us to surrender in 24 hours or they will attack." Ji-ho nodded but did not look worried. "Do not answer them. Keep all radio channels silent. Send a message to all ghost units, tell them to stay hidden and wait for my orders." Do-eun looked confused. "Sir, should we not warn the people? Tell them to hide." "No," Ji-ho said quietly. "Let the people live their normal lives. Let the aliens think we are too stupid to understand what is happening. This is all part of the plan." Above ground in Seoul, people walked to work and school just like any other day. Children played in parks. People bought food at markets. Cars moved through the streets. Nobody seemed to care about the huge alien fleet hanging in the sky above them. Some people looked up and pointed, but most just went about their daily business. The aliens watching from space were confused by this. "Why are they not running?" one alien officer asked. "Why are they not screaming and hiding?" "Because they are too primitive to understand," another officer replied. "They probably think we are just strange clouds or something their small brains cannot understand." But the aliens were wrong. The humans knew exactly what was happening. They had been preparing for this day for 50 years. In a secret base under the ocean, Admiral Lee Tae-min watched the alien ships through instruments they could not detect. His submarine was so deep that no alien scanner could find it. Around him, his crew worked silently, tracking every alien ship and weapon. "Sir, the aliens are following Pattern 7, just like the computer predicted," said Lieutenant Yoon So-rae, a young woman with bright eyes and quick hands. "They are doing exactly what we expected them to do." Lee Tae-min smiled. 50 years ago, humanity had captured an alien ship near Pluto. Inside that ship, they found alien refugees who hated the hegemony empire. These aliens had taught humans about their enemies' plans and tactics. For 50 years, humanity had been getting ready for this moment. "Send a message to all units," Lee Tae-min said. "Tell them Phase 2 starts tomorrow. The aliens think they are the hunters, but they are about to learn they are the prey." All around the solar system, things that looked empty and dead began to wake up. What the aliens thought were just rocks floating in space were actually human weapons, covered in special materials that made them invisible. Human ships hid in the darkness between planets, waiting like patient spiders for flies to enter their web. The aliens had surrounded Earth, thinking they had trapped helpless humans inside. But the truth was the opposite. The humans had trapped the aliens inside the solar system, and tomorrow the aliens would learn what it meant to fight humanity on their home ground. The waiting was almost over. 3 days had passed since the alien fleet arrived, and Admiral Vextar was getting angry. He stood on his command bridge, his 4 arms crossed, staring down at the blue planet that refused to answer his messages. His black eyes were filled with rage as he watched the humans below continue their normal lives as if nothing had happened. "This is impossible," Vextar growled, his voice making harsh clicking sounds. "We have 10,000 warships surrounding their planet. We could destroy every city in minutes. Why are they not begging for mercy?" His tactical officer, a tall alien with green skin and 3 eyes, looked at the scanning reports with confusion. "Admiral, our sensors show that billions of humans are still going to work, shopping, playing games, and even having parties. Some of them are looking up at us and taking pictures with their primitive cameras. They act like we are some kind of show put on for their entertainment." Vextar's anger grew hotter. "Send more probes. Scan every inch of their planet. Maybe they have weapons we cannot see." "We have already sent 1,000 scanning probes, sir," the officer replied nervously. "They show the same thing every time. The humans have very basic technology. Their weapons are weak. Their ships are slow and old. They should be terrified of us, but instead they seem almost bored." On Earth, in the city of Tokyo, people crowded into restaurants to eat lunch. Children played in schoolyards. Office workers typed on computers. An old man fed birds in a park while the alien fleet hung in the sky above him like a dark cloud. The old man looked up, shook his head, and went back to feeding the birds. "Maybe they are too stupid to understand what is happening," suggested another alien officer. "Some primitive species react to fear by pretending the danger does not exist. Their small brains cannot handle the truth." Vextar considered this. It made sense. These humans were clearly too simple to understand advanced technology. "Very well. Continue scanning. But tomorrow we will show them what happens to species that ignore the hegemony empire." Far below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, deeper than any normal submarine could go, Admiral Lee Tae-min sat in the command center of his secret base. The room was dark except for the blue glow of computer screens. Around him, his crew worked quietly, tracking every movement of the alien fleet above. Lee Tae-min was 60 years old, with white hair and calm eyes that had seen many secrets. For 30 years, he had commanded humanity's most secret military unit. His job was to prepare for the day when aliens would come to Earth. That day had finally arrived. "Sir, the aliens have sent out another wave of scanning probes," reported Lieutenant Yoon So-rae, a young woman with sharp eyes who never missed anything. "They are using exactly the same pattern that our alien friends told us about." Lee Tae-min nodded. 50 years ago, when he was just a young officer, humanity had found something amazing near Pluto. It was an alien ship, but not like the ones above Earth now. This ship was damaged and full of aliens who were running away from the hegemony empire. These refugee aliens hated their former masters and were happy to help humanity prepare for war. "The refugees were right about everything," Lee Tae-min said quietly. "The hegemony always sends the same type of fleet. They always use the same tactics. They always expect primitive species to surrender immediately. They have conquered so many worlds that they have become lazy and predictable." Yoon So-rae smiled as she watched her instruments. "Sir, their probes are completely missing our hidden bases. Our stealth technology is working perfectly. They think our ocean is empty except for fish and whales. But the ocean was not empty. Deep in underwater canyons, hidden beneath thick metal covers that looked like natural rock, humanity's secret fleet waited in silence. These ships were not like anything the aliens had seen before. They used technology copied from captured alien vessels, but improved and made better by human engineers who had spent 50 years perfecting their designs. "Any word from the Ghost Fleet?" Lee Tae-min asked. "All units report ready, sir," Yoon So-rae replied. "They are spread throughout the solar system, waiting for your command. The aliens have no idea they are there." Lee Tae-min looked at a special screen that showed the positions of humanity's secret weapons. What looked like empty space to the aliens was actually filled with human ships and weapons platforms, all of them invisible to alien scanners. Humanity had learned how to hide entire fleets in plain sight. "Send a message to all commanders," Lee Tae-min said. "Tell them that Phase 2 begins now. It is time to start the Revelation Protocol." Across the solar system, things began to change. What the aliens thought were dead asteroids started to move, powered by hidden rocket engines. Empty areas of space began to shimmer as cloaked human ships adjusted their positions. On the dark side of the moon, weapon systems that had been sleeping for decades began to wake up, their computer brains running system checks and preparing for battle. The aliens above continued their scans, becoming more frustrated with each passing hour. They could not understand why the humans were not afraid. They did not know that humanity had been expecting them for 50 years. Soon, the hegemony empire would learn what it meant to fight a species that had turned their entire solar system into a trap. The silence was about to end, and the aliens would finally understand why the humans were not afraid. The hunt was about to begin. Admiral Vextar had waited long enough. For 4 days, the humans below had ignored his mighty fleet, going about their daily lives as if 10,000 alien warships meant nothing to them. His anger burned like fire in his chest, and his 4 arms shook with rage. "I have had enough of this foolishness," he snarled at his officers. "These primitive creatures think they can ignore the hegemony empire. It is time to teach them a lesson they will never forget." His tactical officer looked nervous. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "We will destroy their moon base," Vextar declared, pointing one of his clawed hands at the gray sphere hanging in space near Earth. "I can see a small human outpost on the surface. It looks weak and pathetic just like everything else these humans have built. We will turn it into dust, and then the humans will understand that we are serious." The bridge crew began preparing for the attack. On the main screen they could see Earth's moon clearly. It looked dead and empty, with just a few small buildings and communication towers scattered across its gray surface. To the aliens it seemed like an easy target. "Send Strike Group Alpha," Vextar ordered. 200 of our best warships should be more than enough to destroy that tiny outpost. Make sure the humans on Earth can see the destruction. I want them to know what happens when they ignore the hegemony." 200 alien ships broke away from the main fleet and began moving toward the moon. These were not small ships, each one was the size of a football stadium and packed with enough weapons to level a city. The strike force moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the sun. The alien pilots were confident and relaxed. They had destroyed hundreds of worlds before this one. Human technology was clearly primitive and weak. This would be like crushing an ant under their boots. But as the alien ships got closer to the moon, something strange began to happen. The lunar surface, which had looked dead and empty just moments before, suddenly began to move. What the aliens had thought were natural rocks and hills started to shift and change. Deep inside the moon, in a bunker buried so far down that no scanner could detect it, Captain Choi Min-ho watched the approaching alien fleet on his screens. He was a quiet man with steady hands and calm eyes. For 20 years, he had been the commander of humanity's most secret weapon. "Sir, the aliens are now within range," reported his weapons officer, a young woman named Park Hyejin. "All defense systems are powered up and ready to fire." Choi Min-ho looked at the tactical display showing 200 alien ships approaching his position. He felt no fear, only satisfaction that the plan was finally working. "All batteries," he said in a calm, clear voice, "fire at will." The moon exploded into action. Hidden doors that had been disguised as natural rock formations suddenly slid open across the lunar surface. From these openings, massive weapons rose up like metal flowers blooming in fast motion. Rail guns the size of buildings emerged from craters where they had been sleeping for decades. Particle beam weapons, their energy coils glowing with blue fire, lifted up from underground chambers. The aliens had expected to attack a few small buildings. Instead, they found themselves facing a fortress that had been built into the moon itself. The entire lunar surface had become one giant weapon. "Fire!" Choi Min-ho commanded. The railguns spoke first, launching metal projectiles at impossible speeds. These bullets moved so fast that they became streaks of light, crossing the distance between moon and alien ships in seconds. When they hit, the alien vessels simply disappeared in balls of bright fire. The particle beams fired next, sending streams of pure energy that could cut through the strongest alien armor like a hot knife through butter. Wherever these beams touched, alien ships melted and exploded. The aliens tried to fire back, but their weapons had been designed to fight other spaceships, not an entire weaponized moon. Their lasers and missiles seemed like tiny pinpricks against the massive fortress that humanity had built. In less than 5 minutes, all 200 alien ships were gone. Not one survived. The space around the moon was filled with glowing debris and expanding clouds of gas that had once been proud hegemony warships. On the alien flagship, Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical screen in complete shock. Where 200 ships had been just minutes before, there was now nothing but empty space and wreckage. "This cannot be happening," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "No primitive species has technology like this. How did they build weapons so powerful?" But his horror was just beginning. Alarms started screaming throughout his ship as his sensors detected something impossible. Across the entire solar system, things that had looked like ordinary asteroids and space rocks were suddenly moving on their own. Hidden rocket engines flared to life, revealing that these rocks were actually human weapons platforms that had been disguising themselves for years. Even more shocking, areas of supposedly empty space began to shimmer and ripple like water. As Vextar watched in growing terror, huge human ships became visible as their cloaking fields shut down. These vessels were sleek and deadly, unlike anything in the hegemony fleet. "Sir," his tactical officer said in a shaking voice, "we are detecting human weapons and ships everywhere. They have been surrounding us this entire time." Vextar finally understood the truth. The humans had never been primitive or weak. They had been waiting, preparing, and setting the perfect trap. The hegemony fleet was not the hunter, they were the prey. The hegemony fleet was trapped. What Admiral Vextar had thought was empty space around Earth was actually filled with human weapons and ships that had been hiding for decades. The aliens found themselves surrounded by an invisible enemy they could not see or fight. Deep in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter, Commander Jang Hyun-woo sat quietly on the bridge of his ship, the Silent Wind. His vessel was completely invisible to alien sensors, using technology that bent light and energy around the hull like water flowing around a stone. The aliens looking directly at his position would see nothing but empty space and distant stars. Hyun-woo was 35 years old, with sharp eyes and steady hands. He had trained his entire life for this moment. His ship was one of hundreds in humanity's Ghost Fleet vessels so advanced that they made alien technology look like old toys. "Sir, I have a target," whispered Lieutenant Namunji, his weapons officer. She was a young woman with quick reflexes and perfect aim. Her fingers moved across her control panel like a pianist playing a deadly song. "Alien cruiser moving slowly, no idea we are here." Hyun-woo studied the alien ship on his screen. It was huge and powerful, with enough weapons to destroy a city. But it was also blind and helpless, searching desperately for enemies it could not find. "Fire when ready," he said calmly. "Make it quick and clean. We are the hunters now." The Silent Wind's main weapon charged silently. It was a particle beam that could cut through the strongest alien armor like paper. The weapon fired, sending a stream of pure energy across space at the speed of light. The alien cruiser simply vanished in a ball of white fire, destroyed so quickly that it never had time to send a warning to the rest of the fleet. This same scene was happening all across the solar system. Human ships that had been hiding for years suddenly attacked alien vessels, destroying them one by one. The aliens never saw their attackers. Their ships simply disappeared from their sensors, leaving behind nothing but glowing clouds of gas and metal debris. On the alien flagship, Admiral Vextar watched his mighty fleet disappear like smoke in the wind. Every few minutes, another ship would vanish from his tactical display. His officers ran around the bridge in panic, trying to understand what was happening. "Sir, we have lost another destroyer," reported his tactical officer, his three eyes wide with fear. "That makes 27 ships gone in the last hour. We cannot see what is attacking us." "How is this possible?" Vextar demanded, his four arms waving in anger and confusion. "Our sensors are the best in the galaxy. Nothing can hide from hegemony technology." But the humans had learned to hide from hegemony sensors 50 years ago, when they captured their first alien ship. Human engineers had studied every piece of alien equipment, learning how it worked, then building better versions. The student had become the teacher. Far away in the asteroid belt, Captain Oh Sung-min commanded a weapon station that looked exactly like a large floating rock. For 15 years, his installation had drifted silently among the real asteroids, waiting for this day. The aliens had scanned his position hundreds of times and never suspected that the innocent-looking space rock was actually humanity's most deadly weapon. "Target coming into range," reported his gunner, Sergeant Kim Boare. She was a veteran soldier who had never missed a shot in her entire career. "Alien destroyer moving in a straight line. They have no idea we are here." Oh Sung-min smiled as he watched the alien ship approach. It was searching for human forces, its sensors sweeping back and forth across the asteroid field. The aliens were looking for traditional spaceships and military bases. They never thought to scan the rocks themselves. "Fire," Oh Sung-min ordered. His weapon platform unleashed a barrage of missiles that streaked through space like falling stars. The alien destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash of light, adding to the growing field of wreckage that floated throughout the solar system. "That makes 17 kills, Kim Boare reported with satisfaction. "Should we move to a new position?" "No," Oh Sung-min replied. "Let them keep coming. They still think we are just a rock." The pattern continued throughout the day. Human weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, space debris, and even comets attacked the alien fleet from every direction. The hegemony ships tried to fight back, but they could not hit enemies they could not see. Some alien commanders tried to retreat, but they discovered that humanity had blocked every escape route. Hidden minefields activated around the edges of the solar system, trapping the alien fleet inside Earth's gravity well. What the aliens had thought was a simple conquest had become a deadly maze with no way out. Admiral Vextar realized that his entire fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that had been planning this battle for decades. The humans had studied hegemony tactics, learned their weaknesses and prepared the perfect trap. "Sir," his communications officer said with a trembling voice, "we are receiving a message from the human fleet." "Put it on screen," Vextar ordered, though he dreaded what he might see. The holographic display showed a human commander in a crisp military uniform. The human looked calm and confident, like someone who had already won the battle. "Admiral Vextar," the human said, "my name is Fleet Admiral Bay Junicio of Earth's United Defense Command. I think it is time we talked." Vextar stared at the human face on his screen and finally understood the terrible truth. The hunters had become the hunted, and there was no escape from the web that humanity had spent 50 years weaving around them. Admiral Vextar stood alone on his command bridge, watching the last of his escort ships disappear in flashes of light. His mighty fleet of 10,000 vessels had been reduced to just a few hundred survivors in less than 6 hours. The bridge around him was dark and quiet, filled with the smell of smoke and fear. His officers huddled at their stations, too terrified to speak. Many of them were wounded from equipment explosions when human weapons had struck nearby ships. The proud hegemony fleet, which had conquered 50 worlds without losing a single battle, was being destroyed by an enemy they could not even see. Suddenly, a new signal appeared on Vextar's communication screen. The hologram that formed showed a human male in a crisp military uniform. The man had gray hair, calm eyes, and the confident bearing of someone who had already won the war. "Admiral Vextar of the hegemony fleet," the human said, speaking perfect hegemony language without any accent or mistakes. "I am Fleet Admiral Bay Junicio of Earth's United Defense Command. I think it is time we had a conversation." Vextar's forearms began to shake with shock and confusion. No human should be able to speak the ancient hegemony tongue. It was a complex language that took decades to learn, full of clicking sounds and subtle meanings that primitive species could never understand. "This is impossible," Vextar whispered. "How do you know our sacred language? How do you know our battle tactics? You are supposed to be a primitive species that has never left your home planet." Fleet Admiral Junicio smiled, but it was not a cruel smile. It was the patient expression of a teacher explaining something to a confused student. "We have been expecting your arrival for 50 years, Admiral. Ever since your first scout probe entered our solar system and we captured it near Pluto." Vextar felt his heart sink. The probe mission to this system had been classified as top secret. Only the highest commanders in the Empire knew about it. That probe was never supposed to be found. It was designed to be invisible to primitive sensors. "It was invisible," Junicio agreed. "But 50 years ago we were not as primitive as you thought. We captured your probe and found something very interesting inside its databanks. We learned about the hegemony empire, your conquest plans, and your expansion into this region of space." The human admiral paused, letting his words sink in. "But more importantly, we found the refugees." "What refugees?" Vextar demanded, though part of him already knew the answer. "The aliens hiding in your probe ship," Junicio explained. "Members of species that your empire had conquered and enslaved. They had stolen the probe and were trying to escape to freedom. When we found them, they were more than happy to tell us everything about hegemony tactics, technology, and weaknesses." Vextar felt sick. The Empire had always assumed that conquered species were too broken to resist. The idea that some might escape and share military secrets with potential enemies was a nightmare that kept hegemony commanders awake at night. "These refugees taught us your language, your customs, and your military strategies," Junicio continued. "They helped us understand exactly how the hegemony empire operates. We learned that you always send the same type of fleet, always use the same attack patterns, and always expect primitive species to surrender without a fight." As Junicio spoke, something incredible began happening throughout the solar system. Areas of empty space started to shimmer and ripple like water. Suddenly, human ships began appearing everywhere, their cloaking fields shutting down to reveal vessels that had been hiding in plain sight. Vextar watched in growing horror as his tactical screens filled with human warships. There were thousands of them, sleek and deadly vessels unlike anything in the hegemony fleet. They had been surrounding the alien armada the entire time, invisible and patient, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. "Impossible," Vextar breathed. "Our sensors showed this system was almost empty." Where did all these ships come from? We have been building them for 50 years, Junzio replied calmly. Every year we launched new construction projects in secret locations throughout our solar system. We built shipyards inside hollowed-out asteroids, weapons platforms disguised as space debris, and entire fleets hidden behind cloaking technology that your own refugees helped us perfect. The human ships were now visible everywhere Vextar looked. They outnumbered his remaining forces by more than 10 to 1. But even more terrifying was their obvious technological superiority. These were not the primitive vessels his intelligence reports had described. They were advanced warships that made hegemony technology look ancient and clumsy. Your species now has a simple choice, Admiral, Junzio said, his voice becoming more serious. You can surrender your remaining ships and learn what human mercy looks like. We will treat your crews with dignity and respect, provide medical care for your wounded, and eventually allow you to return home with a message for your empire. Vextar felt hope rise in his chest. Perhaps these humans were not as dangerous as he had feared. But Junzio was not finished speaking. However, if you choose to continue fighting, your ships will join the rest of your fleet in the void. We have spent 50 years preparing for this moment, and we will not hesitate to defend our home. Looking around at his terrified officers and his nearly destroyed fleet, Vextar realized he had no choice. The mighty hegemony empire had met its match in humanity. We surrender, he said quietly. Junzio nodded. A wise decision. Welcome to the new age, Admiral. Humanity is no longer hiding in the darkness. The galaxy is about to change.